More missions to arrive for Club Arc. Modelling changes to the centre map. And Aberration reveals coming soon. You're right, kids, it's Raasclark and welcome to your regular Arc community news. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share around, and let's get into it. So Club Arc, the very surprising addition added to the base game on Monday, was met to certainly a welcomed response, something I had a lot of fun with. We did a stream on this on Monday, and a lot of you out there are enjoying it too. Made by Codigo Alex, offering a range of different missions to complete in order to get tokens to then use to accumulate loot to take to your servers. It's a great premise, it's certainly a great concept. The question is, will it be developed? Is this going to be like many wildcard projects in the past that have been put out there and abandoned, or is the response strong enough that this thing will continue to be developed? I think, and I hope you can agree, this definitely is a promising one indeed. For one, it's free. Will it remain free? Of course, when we first saw the tokens currency in the bottom right hand corner, I was a bit concerned that maybe some monetary ways of paying for tokens might be introduced, but co-founder Jeremy kindly jumped into the stream answering a few questions from me and you guys in the community, such as us questioning could we expect some monopoly from this, and answering if anyone adds pay for coins or anything like that into this mode, send me out and burn the ship. This seems to be one thing they want to continue to be a free feature for the base game. And it needs to be right. Whilst Codigo Alex and the rest of Wildcard have been experimenting with a few ideas, I think this is one that could stick if it's handled well, if it's continued with more missions added as regular as possible, and perhaps some integration with some features since forgotten. We dropped a tweet following a full reflection on what we thought this definitely needed to continue to be popular, such as rotating timed minigames, allowing artifacts obtainable through it. Now think about that for a second. I know taking away the cave exploration and a lot of content from the maps themselves and the experience of having to battle it out to get those artifacts, but PvP especially, having cave blocking on there, it's such a pain. And this could really be a way to spin that on its head and perhaps offer a more fairer advantage to players alike. As well as Sotif, Survivor of the Fittest, desperately needs some love. This will be a perfect way to get this back off the ground. Offer tokens as rewards for beating Sotif to take to Club Arc. You would see many, many more players competing in this, without a doubt. In response, the developer behind it did give us a few eyes, meaning perhaps they're taking these points into consideration, with Jeremy adding this will be expanded upon very rapidly and more will be added to rewards and systems as time passes on. And yes, they do plan to add more missions every time a story map is added, and will be adding another mission for the Summer Bash event when that arrives sometime in the summer. What I'm specifically perhaps more interested about with this is the dev kit assets we might get as a result of this. Think the spin wheels, especially within the Wild West hub room. Think perhaps, those dingle cups that we do with the spin wheel, but instead that being integrated in actual Arc. Speaking of which, it got confirmed to us by Jeremy that this was heavily inspired by Monarchy and Arcadia, the Spanish creator group that do a bunch of cool random modded events themselves. But either way, very, very awesome to hear that Monarchy had some hand in making things like this come to fruition. A very cool accolade I feel really proud of. We did a full in-depth look at it and if it was worth the push to gain tech and such early on. Either way, I think if starting out on official servers, you've got a easy way to access loot from the bat, and really look forward to what more gets added to this in the future. I'll be streaming this again pretty soon. Watch this space. Turns out centers getting some changes. How about that? Something I definitely was a bit critical about. Whilst I do love the map, I really do, there's certainly some areas I felt that needed a bit of an uplift, and in particular some areas you wanted an uplift to, or at least a rebalancing of, and they're definitely targeting one place in particular real soon. As per their Community Crunch 415, they explained that the Moonpool Big Side in North Ice Cave will be getting some balance changes by the end of next week, making it more slightly expanded and slopes to be added. They understand though how impactful that could be and will be monitoring for the future. And okay, it's a very small change, but the fact that changes are happening means perhaps they will give some consideration to some areas I personally feel are very heavily underdeveloped, such as the western cliff edges. The sea down there still has no bottom to it. It's so bizarre. Maybe they could address that in the future. And what else may they do more balanced changes for? Either way, despite it aesthetically looking good, the biggest criticism I've seen from most people is it perhaps losing some character, the saturation, the difference in colours of biomes, regions across the map, and how will this affect other maps in the future, such as one we're about to talk about in just a moment. But something also dropped at the same time that we looked at, glanced at, and met to a very mixed response. Power Rangers skins is here, and yes, you can play as them. They look pretty cool, though that $10 price tag does seem, for me, just perhaps a bit too pricey, being that if you're not a Power Rangers fan, I just can't see you going for it. But the downloads don't lie. 437 downloads so far. Okay, that's not completely reflective of the full downloads. I'm aware that if you re-download the same thing, that will count as a download here. So maybe it's half that. Either way, even if we half that, that's still quite an extensive number on a $10 paid skin set. And I do still firmly stand behind these things happening instead of paid creatures. Can we perhaps just somehow get around this one and just make sure future creatures don't have a price tag on them? Don't put a paywall on a thing in the same map that you're sharing with other players. That's my concern. Only for PvP. PvE, not an issue, of course. Single player, not an issue, of course. You know I'm happy to pay for this and would happily help, support, fund whatever's coming Wildcard's way, but you need to handle it right, and I think this is the way. As long as it's not affecting anyone else's experience, why not, right? And it seems a lot of you agree. This, in fact, blew up. I saw a lot of people covering this, a lot of other giant news outlets covering this one, because what's Power Rangers, right? Everybody knows Power Rangers, and I'm hoping perhaps that added to that $10 price tag being associated with a franchise, and perhaps Hasbro needed a cut too. Nevertheless, with this, could we perhaps be seeing more IP franchises lending their skins to Ark in the future? Well, in response to a awesome build of a King's Landing inspired single play settlement built by an Ark fan here right on Reddit that was featured via the Ark main page, co-founder Jeremy dropped a little on top as well that may be eluding Game of Thrones skins. Anyone? I think perhaps now they've demonstrated that they can use an IP for skins. That's certainly going to open up the door to encourage other IPs to introduce their skins on top too now. I think it really does, and perhaps Game of Thrones could actually happen. White Walkers, anyone? I know there's a big tribe out there, or are they still running now anymore, that could be wearing those skins, and who doesn't want to play as Jon Snow? Either way, seems to be a lot of cool stuff on the horizon, including the Unreal Engine 4.5 update we are getting. Don't forget, we're getting this sometime over the summer, offering a lot of promising features, improved stability, and improved animating as well, something I'm going to be keeping a close eye on in how we can create more machinima cinematic style content for Ark in the future. But another thing, which I assume that's what Wildcard are hinting at with what's in store for the summer, but they also said right at the end of their community crunch that next week we're going to get some news about the exotically beautiful Aberration. A fan favourite without a doubt. I know a lot of people still love this map and especially look forward to seeing how this one looks in Ark Survival Ascended, and well, I've got to agree. I think this one in particular doesn't even need that much of a facelift to look so much better. It's certainly by far one of the best looking maps in Ark, and with that Unreal touch on top could look absolutely gorgeous. The way looming lighting works in Unreal 5 especially, and think how lit areas are in Aberration on ASE at the moment, I think this is going to look really awesome. And perhaps because of how light is managed at the moment, could actually be a bit of an issue, but perhaps 4.5 will drop before then and handle those concerns. Nevertheless, it's coming, and lest we forget with Bob's Adventures blimps, anyone. But when is indeed the question. It was originally dated for July. That ain't happening. It's got to be later than July. Maybe August, possibly August. Only time will tell, and only 1 week will tell. But either way, it feels like a lot of content incoming for the base game at the moment. And these things, the skins, I'm very curious on your response. Did you download it? Comment below, let me know. And let's see how many people actually did versus the total downloads. I don't know how we can gauge that otherwise. Perhaps that's one way to do it. And does that mean that Game of Thrones is round the corner? Until the next one, my name's Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And as always, peace out.